Hi everyone, this is Paul here for the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report for the week commencing the 24th of October. Now outlining some of the key aspects and transits taking place this week and giving an overview of what it all means. Before I do that though, I just want to clarify as always do that the astrology doesn't control our lives. We all have free will to take necessary action. What the astrology does though is it highlights the kind of influences present at this time. It helps us to understand what spiritual lessons are unfolding collectively, and from there it's up to us to actually take the lessons on board, identify how they're unfolding in our own personal lives, and then adapting our actions and our approach to situations so we then respond to what's going on around us rather than reacting to it. So if nothing else, astrology gives us an awareness of the broader concepts of events around us. It's up to us as to how we actually participate with them, whether we react to them blindly or if we choose to respond to them knowing the context. Now in terms of the aspects this week, I'll begin with the moon as usual. She starts in Aries, so this is a time where you may feel that drive to take action, but on the same day, i.e. Wednesday, she'll be moving into Taurus. So this is a time for getting grounded, kind of taking the steady step-by-step process to achieve things. And we may feel like we need to spend a bit more time in nature. And on the same day, we'll have the full moon in Taurus. So I'll do a little bit on this, but there's a full video about that coming up as well. So I'll keep it fairly brief. On Friday, the moon will move from Taurus into Gemini. So this will be a time where I may feel a need to work on communication, to work on how we speak with one another and how good we are at listening. And it's also time for gathering information related to whatever projects we're working on and seeing how we can adapt our perspective or change our perception of things so we see a different route to achieving the same goal. Before on Sunday, the moon will move into her home sign of Cancer. This is a time for we may feel like we need to spend time at home or just getting in touch with our emotions, getting in touch with the roots of our being, allowing the emotions to flow, so giving them a space without either trying to suppress them or get overwhelmed by them, and just spend time nurturing ourselves and knowing the deeper level of the self and understanding what our own dreams are. Now, in terms of the full moon I mentioned, is a particularly packed one, and it's this one, with it being opposite, having Venus retrograde in close proximity to the Sun, the Moon in close proximity to Uranus retrograde in Taurus, and then that being square to the South Node in Aquarius, North Node in Leo. The full moon is a crossroads for us. It represents an opportunity to either break free from the past, break free from old conditioning, and embrace a new chapter in life, a new way of being that's more empowered, that's based on taking responsibility for being the best versions of ourselves we can be, to having the courage to pursue our own dreams and embrace that childlike quality within us that has that necessary curiosity and that creative potential to make things happen. Or do we cling to the old ways of staying stuck in group consciousness, staying with the crowds and relying on group security to avoid taking responsibility for how our lives unfold? If we just go with the crowd, we only go as far as the crowd goes. If we truly want to become the best versions of ourselves, we have to break free from the crowd. And I'm not saying that we become selfish and only focused on ourselves, but it's about working on our own relationship to oneself, and through being the best versions of ourselves, the rest of humanity naturally benefits. So if each person seeks to be the best versions of themselves, then comes together from there a much more empowering dynamic that nurtures the creative abilities of each member of the group and works towards a more transpersonal goal, can then emerge. And it also, with the Sun in Scorpio side of things, it's also time for facing our own shadow, seeing where our own subconscious motivations or old attachments sabotage our efforts to become the best version of ourselves and hold us back. Whilst the moon in Taurus brings a more grounding influence and that need to get centered within oneself and to remember that as important it is to go through this transformation, the values, we also need to remember to enjoy the simple things in life, to enjoy the fruits of our labours, enjoy the fruits of the Spirit. On the next event is going to be on the 26th. This is the exact conjunction between Venus retrograde and the Sun. This is the point where an old Venus cycle officially comes to an end and a new cycle begins. This is a time where the old feminine aspect of the ego needs to be let go of, where issues around codependency, attraction, issues with self-worth. If we embrace the Venus retrograde properly, this is an opportunity to let go of this, to deal with the relationship with oneself, to heal oneself through loving the deepest parts of ourselves, and through understanding ourselves at the deepest level and learning to love ourselves unconditionally. This then sets a template for the relationships with others. But in the weeks that follow, with Venus rising again, we go through Luciferian phase. This is basically the phase where we may be tempted by it could be new relationships which seem good for us, but we may be feeling that desire for connection with one another. We may be feeling that desire to be housed, or to have that loving vibration again, or that loving connection, harmony in relationships. And we may undermine the seeds of new potential that this conjunction between Venus and the Sun brings about. The Venus-Sun conjunction at the retrograde sets a new seed in the psyche for a new empowered way of relating with one another, that honours the self and honours one another, and makes sure that equality is present in relationships, that harmony and balance are the norm. But it's not based on seeking harmony at the expense of self, it's seeking harmony that honours the self. This is further highlighted by the opposition going on between Venus and Uranus, which will be retrograde the Wednesday of the following week, so the 31st. This is a time for understanding that for true harmony to emerge, each person within a relationship has to be given the freedom to embrace the changes going on within their psyches, to undergo that individuation where we understand who we are, independent of conditioning. And it's only through this learning to become the true self and embracing change, which can initially disrupt the normal functioning of a relationship. But if we have the courage to stay true to who we are, to give each other freedom to undergo this transformation, and it's from here of understanding the true self and understanding that nothing operates in isolation anyway, everything is, the natural order of things is in relationship to one another, then a true harmony can form in relationships. A harmony that's based on staying true to oneself and honouring the interconnectedness of everything around us, the greater harmony, if you will, as opposed to the artificial harmony created by people pleasing and trying to achieve a truce or peace at any cost. This is the true peace that emerges through knowing oneself, honouring one another unconditionally, and honouring that interconnected nature of all life. And the more we can do this through staying true to ourselves and committing to healing oneself and healing our relationship and our ability to love oneself, this then allows us to love unconditionally with other people. It allows relationships that engender greater freedom through both parties being encouraged to become who they are, to embrace this new self emerging, and to love one another unconditionally and in a way that empowers the other person to be the best versions of themselves, or staying true to who we are. So this is the end game, if you like. But we have to navigate the second stage of the retrograde first. So it's important that we resist any temptation to start any new relationships. We avoid any sudden impulses to buy things we wouldn't normally get, because our values are still formulating, they're still being rewritten, if you like. So buying anything new at this time, or buying anything that we can't afford at this time, is not a good idea, nor starting a new relationship. If we do need that connection with or that sense of supportedness, it's better to seek it from the relationships that we already have, so the friendships that have no ulterior motives, that it's based on that mutual love, that mutual harmony, and seeking to help one another be the best version of ourselves. So platonic relationships in particular are the main way to heal at this time, or to seek that connection. Any new relationships can come at a later date. Now, the other aspects taking place on the 29th, so around about Saturday, Sunday, we have an exact conjunction between, an exact sextile between the Sun and Saturn. So this brings us an opportunity to develop greater self-discipline, greater integrity, and greater self-control. With it being a sextile, we have to take the opportunity. It's not something that will just happen. We actually have to consciously work on it. When we experience any opportunity to develop a greater degree of self-control, especially with some of the temptations maybe coming from the second half of the Venus retrograde, we can remember to use Saturn to be grounded, to stay in control, to stay true to who we are, and to make sure that any relationships we have with people are based on solid foundations and not passing fancy. The last aspect taking place will be on Monday. This is Mercury will be conjunct Jupiter in Scorpio. So this sets an opportunity for us to expand the rational mind, to bring the mind that deals with the individual details into alignment with the part of the mind that deals with the big picture. It's bringing microcosm and macrocosm together. It's understanding how can we see defined details in the big picture, and how can we use the big picture to guide our understanding of the small details and bring the two into a collective whole. So it's learning to see both the forest and the trees, if you will. And on the same day, Mercury is going to move into the pre-retrograde shadow. Mercury's turning retrograde in November. On Monday, we enter the Mercury retrograde shadow. So this is a time where we need to start slowing down again. We need to make sure that we don't, rather than constantly rushing around with blinkers on, it's time to consciously slow down, because the rational mind, which deals with left brain logic and thinking and analysis, this starts powering down, ready for the retrograde, which brings up new insights for ourselves, which I'll go into far more detail in the relevant time. But suffice to say, this is a time for slowing down, to not rush around starting any new projects as such, because we're heading towards a point where we need to review what we've already got going on and transforming the logical mind at the same. And this will happen once Venus is turned direct again. So overall, this is a week where we're presented with a crossroads to begin with, and then with Venus retrograde conjunct the Sun, this is an opportunity for us to end once for all any dysfunctional patterns in our relationship with oneself and with other people, and set a new template for the next 8-year cycle before Venus turns retrograde in Scorpio and Libra again in 8 years' time, so 2026. So the more we make conscious our own subconscious motivations, the more we break free of any codependent attitudes, the more we transform our values through letting go of the ones that we've inherited from society and getting in touch with our innate ones. What values are making their way into our consciousness? What, for many of us, it could be new spiritual values, but it's not a time to take action on them as such. It's a time to let them get embedded, to nurture them in secret, if you like. So time in solitude may be necessary at this time, but through making sure that we stay true to ourselves and that we engage in relationships that are destined to stay with us without any hidden motivations. It's based on platonic love, and that way we can nurture ourselves through the next phase. We can encourage one another to stay true to each other rather than being pulled off course, and from there we can establish new healthy relationships going forward, based on having fundamental love for oneself and love for other people, but it's a harmony based on staying true to oneself now rather than codependency and people pleasing. So may the coming week bring you many blessings, many insights, and maybe an opportunity for you to cut free from the past once and for all, and allow a new future based on who you're becoming to emerge. If this means that old relationships have to be cut loose altogether, because the other person in the dynamic only benefits from the old dynamic, they don't benefit from us becoming this new version of ourselves, then we obviously have to let go of that relationship and cut that person free so that they can learn their own lessons from this process, and we're free to become the person that we need to become in order to honour the new spirit emerging through us and the new beginnings. So may the upcoming week bring many blessings and much growth. Take care and may you be blessed.